I'm Chelsea Morris. I'm a PhD student in environmental engineering at Cornell University. My research is in nutrient cycling and agricultural systems. So I study best management practices for agricultural production. Farmers will adopt these practices to improve their water quality or soil quality or air quality. My research site is in the Owasco Lake watershed, which is part of the Finger Lakes region. This watershed has dairy farms and corn and soybean farms. Many different human activities have an impact on the watershed, but agriculture is the focus of my research. I'm working at sites where a pre-identified problem will be addressed with a best management practice. My testing will assess how effective these practices are. So we're picking up water samples at the inlet of the watershed that we're looking at and the outlet of the watershed. The inlet is where water is coming in from another part of the watershed, another farmer's field, and the outlet is where water is leaving this particular farm. So the differences that we'll see in the concentrations between the inlet and the outlet should give us an idea of how much phosphorus and how much nitrogen and how much sediment we are adding to the stream or removing. We test several different forms of nitrogen. So nitrogen might exist as nitrate, nitrite, ammonia.
And those are things in bacon, right?
Nitrite? Is nitrate in bacon? Yeah. And so I'm grabbing a full liter sample because I'm going to do total suspended solids analysis. I'm going to look at how much sediment is in this. The reason we're looking at sediment and phosphorus in the Owasco Lake watershed is because they're concerned about nutrient pollution causing algal blooms in the lake and excessive amounts of weeds that could decrease recreational activities and also impact drinking water. A couple different towns pull from Owasco Lake for their drinking water source. So it's important to maintain a high quality of water in that watershed. One of the practices that we're looking at to see whether it's effective is a really simple one. It's just putting a fence to keep cows out. Like last week, had a whole bunch of vegetation and the cows were in this pasture and it was hot, so I think that they were totally mucking around in this. The vegetation was like chest height. This vegetation is really important for a couple of reasons. First, vegetation with the roots really holds the stream bank in place so that when there's a big storm, the water that's moving through the stream doesn't just take a slice out of the stream bank. The roots of the plant are going to hold it in. This water also really smells. It always smells so crazy.
What happened?
I'm almost falling in. So in order to understand if our fence is going to be effective, we're sampling water both before and after we put in the fence. We're interested in when we put up the fences, do we see this continual like oscillation of phosphorus levels, or will we see a drastic reduction because we've eliminated so much cow manure from the stream? So we've been sampling here for over a year. I just passed 200 samples at this site. It does signal that I put a lot of work into this site and a lot of time. And a lot of people have helped sample. So I had 2 undergraduates working with me this summer who did a great job, and they were out here every week. One of the other graduate student, Erin, she's came out in like the middle of winter and was sampling for me. She does a little bit of sampling in canoes at the inlet of the lake. This is a big project. I am pretty excited. Today, Pete Marchetto is joining me in the field. Pete is a Cornell postdoc who helps our research group design and build environmental sensors. Pete set up for us this great system with a ping pong ball and a laser, and he is measuring the depth of the water in what we call a stilling well. We're creating a rating curve that relates depth measured by Pete's sensors to velocity, which I will measure with a flow meter across the stream. So once we have that rating curve, then we can figure out from Pete's depth measurements, which are taken every 5 minutes, what the volume of water is that moves through the stream.
Change in frequency gives us that Doppler effect, and we're able measure out what the velocity is, what the actual speed of the water flowing by is. That's how ultrasonic velocimetry works.
This is a lot more high-tech than the old instruments that we used to use in hydrology, which just had like a little propeller, which would make for better camera footage, but are not as accurate as this guy.
That's true.
We'll use the volume of water, multiply that by the concentration that we observe in our water samples to get an estimate of approximately how much, what mass of pollutant has passed through our inlet and our outlet. My other site is in a different part of the watershed on a different farm. This farm does a rotation of growing corn and soybeans, and each year they switch them back and forth.
Tell us about that gully. It's going to become the new gorge of Ithaca.
That's right. This gully is going to become, potentially, if left unchecked, would become something really deep. Water is incredibly powerful and will carry all of that topsoil. And you can even see in this gully very large stones and glacial till just picked up by these storm flows and deposited farther down this gully. And eventually they make their way into the woods and into this stream, but it is tearing up this farm field. Last year they tried to plant it and the corn in this area just all fell apart, so I'm not sure that they really got a great harvest out of this area. The practice that we're looking to put in at this location will take surface water and we'll route it down underneath the ground and into the woods over here, into the stream. This practice is particularly beneficial to the farmer because he's not losing topsoil from his land. Important topsoil that's nutrient rich, lots of carbon, lots of nitrogen and phosphorus in that soil. It's going to stay in place. It looks like this project will have a full year's worth of data before they put their drop inlet in, and then we'll measure again afterwards to see if there was a noticeable effect, and there should be. And that's important. We want to do a full year because hydrology is a seasonal, up here is very seasonally based, and so the water flows and concentrations that you might see in the summer are drastically different from what you see in the fall.
Even more so from the winter.
And then even more so from the winter, exactly, Pete. So like we'll be out here collecting samples when there's snow on the ground. Last year we like put our snowshoes on and like snowshoed out to the sites and picked up the water samples. So it's kind of fun. I mean, people snowshoe for exercise.
And
we're just snowshoeing for work. Yeah.
The site in the woods has a similar setup to the field site. A solar panel powers the rig that records the data fed to it from the sensors, which dip into the stream. The PVC pipe has a ping pong ball floating at the bottom, which rises and falls with the height of the water. A laser sensor reports the location of the ball, giving us the measurement for the depth. Graphite electrodes measure conductivity, that's a proxy for salinity, and an LED and photoresistor give us turbidity, which will represent how much sediment is suspended in the water. And in addition to all that, we have a temperature sensor there too. To analyze the water samples I've collected, I'm returning to the Soil and Water Lab at Cornell. One of my colleagues, Sheila Saya, is there working on her own samples for another phosphorus project.
I'm a perfectionist, so
That's good.
I try to get it right at 5, but sometimes it's difficult.
That's probably a really good trait for someone in your field. You don't want any of these that's good enough scientists.
I think that's good, actually.
It may look like these are pretty clear, but there are some sediment in here, and so we're just filtering off that sediment so that we can run our analyses.
You're not interested in what's in the sediment? Like, how is it that you get to filter it out?
So I'm interested in the soluble portion. Soluble reactive phosphorus is reactive, the stuff that can be taken up by plants or bacteria, microbes, contributing to possible eutrophication conditions. And this is a vacuum pump, so it's actually sucking air out. And so I'm going to set up the filtration manifold and lay one on here. Pop this on top.
212 samples down, and probably another 212 to go. This data set we're collecting for at least several years. Hashtag science takes forever.
Farmers are not intentionally trying to degrade water quality, and there are lots of other people on the lake who are using the lake and need to be mindful of their contributions to this phosphorus and sediment pollution.
Contribution.
One contribution is
Are you
a
telling
nice
us not
way
to pee in the
of
lake when we're swimming in it?
I'm not saying that explicitly. Like, I think you shouldn't pee in the lake, but I'm saying that's probably minimal compared to some other uses. Like, we really don't have a good sense of how much septic systems are contributing to the quality of our lake. We need to continue monitoring the quality of our water, just as I'm doing at these different field sites. We all use the water in the lake, whether it be for recreation or drinking water or to water our lawns. So it's really important to all of us that we have really clean, good water.
What is it that makes being an engineer so special?
I've got solutions.
Engineering pride.
Not put that in the video.
Oh, he definitely will.
Because that's not how I feel as an engineer.
Why'd you say it, huh?